Hi everyone, so today we're going to learn Blender. It's there, and it's basically a free app that you can use animation, 3D object scenes, and a lot more. So today I'm just going to cover the basics of it. Honestly, if the basics are pretty much a lot of stuff, so you can do a lot of things with these basic information, so I don't think you don't need to be like super professional at it to make some pretty cool things with it, so that's why I like it. So we're gonna get on with it. So the three most basic commands of Blender is to grab something, rotate something, or scale something. To grab something is using the G key if you have a keyboard. Well, you should have a keyboard. To grab something, you press G, and you can move the object. You see, you just move the object, okay? So, very basic, I think. Now, okay, look, I didn't mean to move it there. You can use Control Z to move it back. Control Z is like an undo button. So you press Control Z to undo something. And then, now rotate. You can rotate something by pressing R. I just rotated it. Be careful with rotate because it has the same problem as grab. You look like you're putting it off into the distance, but you actually also made it a little bit above the ground. So just be careful with that. So yeah. And then scale. To use scale, to scale something, you have to press the S key, and it basically makes something bigger or smaller. And you can always press escape to undo these things before. Now, you're probably watching me like, okay, Sophie, I know those, but I don't even know how to navigate myself. Okay, so basically for Blender, when you first open it, you can actually have a bunch of options. I just use all the default ones, so I'm going to go over those. To pan the area, like so, just to rotate it, you use middle mouse and you hold and you just move your mouse. You press middle mouse and then move it. That's to rotate the scene. And to move the scene like this, you press shift plus middle mouse and do the same thing. And scrolling in and scrolling out is scrolling the middle mouse and scrolling out the middle mouse. And so that's really good, but you're like, Sophie, how is this gonna help me? I can only do this. Like, it's not gonna be very pretty or doing anything. Well, there are 3 axes. It brings me to my next point, which is how there are 3 axes. You see this thing over here? You can also drag that as well if you want to do the same. But still, do you see this thing here? It says X, Y, and Z. Well, it's basically the coordinate plane. So the red line is X. You see that red line? And the Y and the green line, that's Y. So it's sort of like a coordinate grid, you see? And Z actually is up and down. So Z is from above. Z is up and down. So grab and for grab, rotate, and scale, you can always put those with one of the coordinates. Okay, are you confused? Yeah, probably are. So if I press grab, G, and then Z, it can only move up and down. So grab Z, I can only move it there. So sometimes you do that because you don't want, well, if you put it into the distance, you don't want it to get that high. If you put it here, you don't want it to go higher, so you can press Y. It did not go any higher because it only went on the Y-axis. Now, actually, Sometimes you want to do everything but in axis. For example, if you want to move it to there, somewhere in the middle of the x and y plane, you may want to do shift x in axis. So for example, if you grab something and you shift z, that would move it it wouldn't move on the z axis. Okay, so now you're like, okay, still, what does that can you make with this? Well, I'm not on the main point yet, so these are just the basic commands. But you should try this moving them yourself, and because practice makes progress. I don't like practice makes perfect. I don't like that saying. But anyway, you have one cube, and this is actually a default cube. This default cube is you first open into Blender and you have a default cube. Okay, so this default cube is here when you first open Blender. But you can also delete it with the delete key, not the backspace key, the delete key. You see? The delete key. And then you have no objects. Obviously you can Control Z that, but I'm going to delete it. I don't want that. I'm going to you can add things using this add column, or you can add things with Shift A. Meshes, it's easiest to work with meshes, so I'm only going to use meshes for now. Planes are planes. Cubes was just something I just showed. Circle was something that it's just a circle. And now UV sphere and icosphere. I'm going to see if you can spot the difference. You see? And then which one? Can you spot the difference? No, it's not that one is more smoother than the other. You see, this one has a bunch more this is triangles, and these are quadrilaterals. So this circle, this sphere, is made up of triangles. This sphere is made up of quadrilaterals, which you might want and you might not want, which is why they're both of them. And there's then cylinder. Cylinder is a cylinder, and I can definitely do all sorts of things with cylinders. And then there's finally a cone. Well, actually not finally, because I have like a bunch more. But a cone, and yeah, I can do anything I really need to with this cone. And one last thing, it is a torus. A torus is like a donut. A torus is not like I'm going on a tour of the US. No, I don't think that is it. And that you can definitely do anything with the torus. It's like a donut. You might think it's not very useful, but it's actually pretty useful. So, and the next thing we have a grid. It looks like a plane, but I'll show you the difference in the next video. And then there's a monkey. This monkey is actually called Suzanne. It is super easy to work with for sculpting, and you can add things to it and super easily. And yeah. And you're like, okay, Sophie, how does this help me make things? So here, I'm going to literally make a basic chair for you. I'm going to show you a few extra. So I'm actually going to show you one last command, and then that's sort of it. You can have fun with it, because you need to practice a little bit. So let's say this, Shift D, X, Shift D, Y. Oh, Shift D is actually duplicate. I forgot to tell you that. But Shift D, X. This is something. Now, okay, this is very nice, but when I move, let's say I want to move this over here. Now, I could obviously just select everything using the box tool by holding down the mouse and doing this, but that's really annoying. So I'm actually going to join them. Joining them basically is selecting everything. You should choose one active object. That active object is a little orange, you see? I'm going to make it the stool. And then I am going to Control J to join them. Look right here. In the collection, it's only 1 cube now. Before, it was so many cubes. Now it's 1 cube. And obviously you don't like being cube, you can make it called stool or something. So this is some basics of Blender, and I am going to go over edit mode later, because there's actually an easier way to make this stool, but I have not showed it yet. So, bye!